All right. Well, we're going to get started again. Thank you again to our wonderful panelists on the first session. We are now going to transition to the second session of today's first day of our boot camp. We have a great lineup. The topic is going to be about building partnerships between our school districts and all the community partners we have in our local communities, amazing resources. We're going to hear from Brian Jaffe in a moment, who I'll bring on from the AASA, the School Superintendents Association, a wonderful partner and leader, also involved in the Engage Every Student initiative. But this session is being sponsored by a partner that I think reflects partnership and innovation and what's possible in out of school time and what it looks like when community organizations and schools partner together. So with that, I want to turn it over to Rajiv Brown from the Flying Classroom. We're going to hear from their founder tomorrow, but they're sponsoring this session. And Raj, I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for your support for the whole boot camp and give you a second to share your example of what Flying Classroom does.
Yes, thank you so much, Aaron. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to have a spotlight here during this boot camp. It is an honor on behalf of the Flying Classroom team and our founder, Captain Irvin, who will be at tomorrow's panel discussion as well. We just really thank NSLA for partnering with us to share, our message and our platform on what we're doing throughout the nation with other summer opportunities, schools and school districts. Once again, my name is Rajiv Brown. I am the VP of Flying Classroom. And, I just want to take a quick moment here to just really talk about how important it is with our summer learning opportunities and what is out there in collaboration with everyone that's joining our webinar today. Like I said, our founder, Captain Irvin, will be a part of tomorrow's boot camp, talking about the importance of good content that connects academies and fun, helping kids see what's possible. Really encourage everyone to join our panel tomorrow. Here at Flying Classroom, we are a K-12 curriculum company. We work with over 100,000 students in the last few years on many different expeditions that our founder, Captain Irvin, does around the world. We share a lot of hands-on training, hybrid virtual model throughout the nation. If you all are interested in any summer opportunities with the Flying Classroom, NSLA gave us an opportunity to upload a few resources in the toolkit that you all have available. Feel free to reach out to us. And our team will design a framework based on your pacing guide, based on your content focus for your summer implementation on how we can really engage your K-12 students through our model. There's going to be so much being discussed tomorrow during the panel with our founder, Captain Irvin. I do want to share a really quick video highlight of his work that he's doing, some of the really cool, fun expeditions that we take our students on these adventures virtually and also in person. I'm actually currently here in Virginia. I just conducted a school tour through 4 different schools in Hampton. And we are ready and armed to come out to your school district, to even different nonprofit organization to really expand the work we do throughout the nation. Thank you so much again, NSLA, for giving Flying Classroom an opportunity to share what we do. I hope you all really enjoy this next video highlight of us. And thank you for also including our website and a few links in the chat for you all to check out. Thank you so much. Enjoy your panel. And we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow at 1 p.m. where you'll hear more from our founder, Captain Barrington Irvin. Thank you so much.
Flying Classroom lead explorers and explorers. I just want to welcome you guys to a brand new school year. Flying Classroom is about to launch version 3.0 of our online portal. You're going to find a number of new expeditions our team accomplished all over the world. Quick question. Are you ready to engage and see us bring the world to your classroom? Are you ready to explore? And are you ready to innovate? I can't wait to see your engineering design challenges and for you all to realize your very own greatness. On to our next adventure, Blue Skies.
All right, well, thank you, Raj. Thank you, Flying Classroom. And you're going to meet, let's stop the video. But it gives you a little sense. I think we'll hear from Barrington tomorrow. I think it was the first person or young African-American person to fly around the world by himself. He's a real role model around STEM for all of us, but working and took the initiative from his own experience to build the curriculum that he can bring to, especially under-resourced schools and communities and families to have experiences like he did. So that is one example, but here's what I'm really most excited about. Normally, all of us, I think, can agree, hopefully, that in the world of education and youth development, we do a good job of breaking ourselves into small little silos and pieces, and we get together and we work with one another. But really what this moment requires is for us to work across silos and across domains, and to have school districts working with the out of school time and working with our government agencies, youth serving government agencies. And so, but so much is built on how do we support the academic experience of our students. And that brings us to AASA, the School Superintendents Association. Brian Jaffe leads their education youth development work. He's an amazing partner and leader, and I get to talk to him regularly, but he's agreed to moderate the next panel about how can we work with school districts and how can we help districts work with all these different community partners who are knocking on their door. And we're going to hear from a great panel, but I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay, so much good stuff already today. I have to react to a couple things before I get into it. Number one, thank you to Aaron and Christy and Broderick and the whole NSLA team. I did not see a link to swipe up and shop the look that Aaron has today with the NSLA merch, so I'll expect them to drop a link in the chat so that we can all get some good NSLA garb, because I love that. Have to talk about the graphic about the October NSLA conference, which looks amazing. Many of you haven't met David Schuler yet. He's our new executive director. I don't know that he's ever been in a graphic with Run DMC before, or in the same sentence with Run DMC for that matter. So I had to send him that. That will be exciting for all of us. What a great opportunity to come together in October around this work. But I really want to thank NSLA for bringing this boot camp together. As Aaron just said, so many of us are working in this space and sort of working on our own square of the patchwork quilt of education and youth development and out of school time for kids. And I think that's great and fine that we have different ideas and strategies and colors and shapes that we put into the quilt. But we do have to knit it together and make it a cohesive support network for young people and for kids. And these opportunities with NSLA offer us an opportunity to do that. This panel, we've got some great speakers that will help us think through how schools and out of school time are partnering together for summer learning, and really thinking about summer 23, as the previous panel said, as a real opportunity to catalyze this investment that we have before us and to work together to make it a great opportunity for young people who have missed out on so much to have this enrichment, excitement, and some of the things that really only summer can do. Summer is such a special time in the lives of young people, and we have an obligation to continue to make that a special opportunity for kids to learn and grow and thrive and all the things we want for them. So today's panel, I did want to talk about, before we get into our great speakers, who you'll all be excited to hear from, just thinking about the real goals of ARP as we think about the spending. So it was to reopen schools and school districts, and then to address the impact that the pandemic had on students through improvements to their academic, social, emotional, mental, and physical health needs, and then to update school facilities to ensure healthy learning environments. And so AASA has been surveying our members since July of 2021 around their ARP spending and what's new and different, what they're working on, what their concerns are. And the most recent version of that was in July 2022. And what we found is that districts continue to prioritize investing in expanding summer learning and enrichment offerings, adding specialist staff such as mental health personnel and reading specialists, and investing in high quality instructional materials. And these priorities have not shifted since the first of 3 surveys that we did back in July 2021. So they're continuing to report that they're prioritizing a shift in expanding whole child supports, including SEL and physical and mental development. Their second priority after that is engaging those students who have fallen off track for graduation and need additional supports. And I think summer offers an opportunity to do that, but also to make sure we have fewer students falling off track to begin with as we get back into more of a normal routine for schools and summer learning opportunities. So we want to make sure that these summer opportunities are there to make sure we don't lose students through the cracks and have to re-engage them after they've fallen off track. The troubling thing, as one of our first panelists talked about, is this sort of funding expected cliff and the opportunities in which to try to spend that funding by the current obligation dates. So 44% said that they would extend their summer learning and enrichment programs if they had additional time to spend the funding. And more than half said that summer learning and other enrichment opportunities would likely be decreased after the funding deadline. So ASA, along with our Engage Every Student partners like NSLA, are pushing for all of our partners and districts to work together now to really get that return on investment, build community demand, support young people now so that when we get to a different funding environment, this priority remains for folks and we find ways to blend and braid other funding, other opportunities to make sure that these supports don't stop for young people. So what I'd like to do now is invite our panelists for this school district community partnership collaborations for summer to go ahead and come on screen. We have Sarah Resch, the executive director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Milwaukee. We have Rivka Burstein-Stern, the director of strategic partnerships in Seattle Public Schools, along with her colleague, Tasha James, who's an assistant principal in Seattle Public Schools. We have Suzanne Kramer, who is the executive director of school improvement in Omaha Public Schools. And do we have our colleague Joanna Dominguez, who is the, let me get the title right, the director of resident support services for the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara. I'm not sure if she was able to join. Okay, we're gonna get started either way. So I wanted to start in Omaha. So Suzanne, as you can introduce yourself to the group as we get on here. You're the executive director of school improvement in Omaha. So what role does summer learning play in Omaha, and how do you think about summer serving the strategic objectives of the district?
Thanks so much. One of our key strategic objectives around academics here in Omaha is the implementation of our Portrait of a Graduate, which is our promise to our community and to our students about the skills and dispositions and learning experiences and evidence of learning that all students will have when they leave the Omaha Public Schools. And so that is the North Star of our work. And in the past, I think, as you suggested, summer learning has maybe sometimes lived off by itself as separate work. Maybe no one wanted to own it, right? But we're really trying to sort of see summer learning and extended learning opportunities. We're also doing some work in intersessions too, right? That it is an extended learning opportunity for our most vulnerable students across the entirety of the year, aligned to our Portrait of a Graduate in service of our strategic goals around increasing performance in early literacy, math in middle school, and our on-track rate with evidence of learning toward that Portrait of a Graduate in high school. And so our summer learning now operates in a really cross-functional way. We're taking a project management approach to the work with really clear timelines and roles, and leveraging the existing infrastructure and systems that we have in place. So we aren't creating separate hiring processes. We're not creating separate, transportation plans, things of that nature, right? So we're leveraging existing infrastructure, and all of the work is designed to deepen those learning experiences in alignment with the Portrait of a Graduate. And in that way, we're also increasing the capacity of our teachers to look at student performances through that lens, right? And so summer is almost kind of becoming a proving ground for those experiences and that design. And we wouldn't be able to do it without our community partners. And so our summer school is designed around the themes of nature, STEM, sports, and the arts. And we have a single umbrella organization that is sort of the liaison between all of the agencies and providers that make up our after school programming. And so we've always worked with them in summer, but it's almost been kind of, we're all in the same building, but we're in separate spaces. And the degree and level to which we've really, truly, deeply collaborated around what those performances, what summer should look like, what we want to see in those classrooms, it's not been there at all sites. And so for this summer, we're really working on ensuring a common framework. So our after school providers use youth development practices. We have our portrait of a graduate. Where are those intersections, right? And what we're looking for in our school cultures and in our classrooms. They're supporting us on the enrichment side, on the experiential learning side through field trip and guest experiences and things of that nature. And we're co-designing and co-developing within a framework at each site for the first time. And so we're really excited about the sharing of that design space and that power to some extent, and that integration of objectives around what we see as our goals for all of our students. And so we're just really excited about the promise and the energy around that sharing of work and having a co-designed learning experience across the summer at each one of our sites.
Suzanne, let me stay with you for 1 second before I switch to one of our other communities. Do you feel there's been a shift in thinking about summer in Omaha since 2020, or was it this evolution already happening and you're sort of staying with it? I'm always caught between the urgency of the moment we're in and the long-standing history we've had of understanding what our kids need, and that a lot of the research has been there pre-pandemic. So I'm wondering if the pandemic or the last few years have caused a shift in thinking in Omaha, or if you guys were on this track and on this train and it's now just growing because it was on that trajectory already.
Sure. So obviously there's always been summer learning, honestly at quite a large scale in Omaha, but it was largely thought of as a remedial space, that you had to go to summer school if this or that, or it was all very remedial. And while we are really intentional about selecting our students in a time of teacher scarcity, we were really intentional about ensuring that our most vulnerable students get first opportunity, right? And then we fill up to what our staffing allows, right? And so there are some subtle changes there around equity-oriented student selection practices that I think are really important. And so the year of the pandemic was when we sort of, or right after, made that switch to next level learning. So from summer school to this notion of ensuring that some of these amazing enrichment, project-based experiences that often many of our students who need support or who need acceleration don't have access to those experiences, right? So we're trying to not only create those opportunities, ensure that we have this system of extended learning year round, but it also impacts teacher mindset. So next level learning also is a space where we may have our EL students, we have students who are in need of compensatory ed. We have also students who want to come, right? If we're able to staff to that level. And what we're seeing is that when taught in this way and through this lens, where there's student agency, teacher agency, enrichment, joy, all of those pieces, that these kids can, right? And so it's also a space where we're hoping to shift some teacher mindset around what it is we're asking kids to do and what opportunities we're creating for all of our students. And so I would say it's been a shift that's been a few years in the making, that's been accelerated by these funds and by the urgency created by the pandemic.
Thank you. I'm going to go over to Rivka and Tasha. Thank you both for being here. I know Seattle and King County has a long-standing history of great summer learning, but you all are reimagining your approach to summer. So can you talk a little bit about your new approach to forming partnerships and how you're thinking about summer, building on your history of success, but also transforming into sort of a new way of thinking about summer in Seattle?
Yeah, thanks for having us. We'll just quickly introduce ourselves again. So Rivka Burstein-Stern, I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Seattle Public Schools.
Tasha James, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Summer Programs Coordinator for Seattle Public Schools.
Thank you for having us here today. I'm always really inspired to hear from Suzanne, who I feel like is further along in the journey with Omaha. And we are, I would say, closer to the beginning of our journey of sort of reimagining. Like you said, Brian, we have a long history of providing summer programming. As a system, Seattle has hundreds of community-based organization partners that operate in all different sort of facets. We also have historically been a fairly decentralized system in terms of how our schools operate, so a lot of school autonomy. And so I think what we're trying to do with summer is to think about sort of a unified vision around summer as a whole, and then specifically around what the role of our CBO partners can be in making summer a really rich, joyful learning experience for our students. We are also in the midst of a budget crisis here in Seattle. So there's lots of like external factors that are influencing how we approach this. But the way we're thinking about it now is because of the budget situation, it's forced us to kind of scale back as we go through this process of reimagining. So we are starting smaller than what we've historically offered, but that has in some ways enabled us to think a little bit differently. So whereas previously our programs, our elementary programs that were offered and organized by central office were half day, we're now making them all full day. And we're intentionally, centrally, systematically bringing in CBOs to provide part of the programming for the day. Whereas in the past, that was done in sort of an ad hoc piecemeal fashion when maybe there was some funding available, or maybe there was a school that had a partner that was available to offer programming to make it a full day. We're now saying, no, our vision is that all kids get access to enrichment as part of their summer learning experience, and that we know that a holistic, effective summer program involves both academic instruction, but also enrichment that's connected to academic learning. So that's a huge part of the new vision for how we're doing that. And so we're having to build new systems around how we fund the work, how we select partners. It's incredibly cross-departmental. So we're working with our CTE team, partnerships team, special education team, because we're also thinking a lot about how these enrichment experiences should be inclusive, not just for general education students. And together we're trying to build what this looks like. And I think the other piece that's worth highlighting is we're also trying to figure out how we bring partners in to support the design, because we know we're in district mode and we have our ways of thinking when we've been in these systems for a long time that we know give us blind spots around what the experience is like of our partners. And so we're starting small with that. We have one partner that's part of some design conversations with us, but I think we're excited to see kind of where that can take the work. And I think that also, as we think about what partners we bring into design, we're thinking about organizations that have a strong racial equity lens, so that can be really a driver of how we think about designing our summer programming moving forward. So I think the last thing I would say, actually two more things. One is, so long term, we are interested in thinking about how we blur the lines between sort of the traditional academic programming and enrichment programming, because I think we are aware that that our staff have something to learn from seeing a youth development approach, and our youth development professionals have something to learn from seeing how our teachers in our system approach things. So, I would say this summer we are in more of a like teacher-led academics in the morning, partners in the afternoon, but we're excited to think about how we blur those lines. And one way we're trying to do that this summer is by having SPS instructional assistants be part of the staffing model for the enrichment in the afternoon, so that we can just recognize the expertise in both and that we're better together when we learn from one another. So.
Excellent. We'll come back and Tasha will have a chance to share.
Yeah,
some
Tasha's going to
thoughts
speak
as
to the next
Don't worry.
question.
We're going round robin. We're going to keep coming around. No, I think that shows the strength of alignment, and I think finding more creative ways to sort of integrate and infuse those SPS staff with the partners is great. Speaking of partners, Sarah, Boys and Girls Clubs across the country play such a huge role in the development of so many kids' lives. And in Milwaukee, you guys are doing some really cool stuff with a camp that's helping bridge transitions for young people who wouldn't normally attend camp. So can you tell us the story of this success in Milwaukee?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. I love that someone shouted out that she was a club kid. That was awesome before in the last session. So Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Milwaukee has almost 50 sites, 50 club sites and many of them are in schools within the city of Milwaukee or the county of Milwaukee. Not all are Milwaukee public schools. Some of them are private schools and different places, but about 50 sites. Plus we own and operate Camp Whitcomb Mason, which is the site that I am responsible for. So what I like to say is that after school, everyday support that our clubs can offer, helping them with their needs every day after school, helping them with homework, getting them their meal, talking about any issues or problems or just laughter that they need, whatever they need. Those clubs are there every day for them. And then summer camp comes in as that getaway. Everybody needs a time away. They get out in nature. So that's the experience that we want for our kids, is to have that independent, community-based experience where they have a great sense of belonging for our children. Our club kids pay $60 a week to come to camp. Normally that is, $800 plus. $800 to $2,000 a week at many camps. We specifically charge $60 a week and have scholarships available for our children who that is a barrier for attending camp. Our partnership with MPS. So we already had a partnership with our clubs because our clubs are in many of those sites. And so we started talking early after the ESSER funding had come out, and MPS, Milwaukee Public Schools, decided to set aside funding specifically for summer camps to send their children to summer camps. Didn't know quite how that was going to look yet at the beginning. And so she called a couple of the camp directors in the area and we started talking. My first phone call was to Dr. Lori Brown at the American Camping Association, because I knew we were going to need some outcomes-based research. And I wanted to make sure that I was ready for that when things started moving. And we got involved with the Camp School Partnership Grant, sponsored with the National Summer Learning Association and American Camp Association. And we were able to offer up some monies, seed monies, and ask them for a match to start a pilot program for this year. Because, as many school districts, I'm going to say close to probably all of them, it was really hard to get that money spent right away when you got it, because it just takes time to get those wheels moving. And so they were planning to start in 2023. And I said, well, I have this much money. Can we start a pilot and start a small project this year? So we served about 80 children overnight at camp last summer. They did a request for proposals that went to all camps that want to serve Milwaukee Public School kids for this year. And while there are 8 of us who know that we have grants, we don't yet have our contracts, so we don't know how much yet. So we're all still kind of waiting to find out what the size of those grants are, but really looking forward to serving a large number of students at 8 different programs, not just my own this coming year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. Joanna, I want to bring you into the conversation now. And before I do, I just want to say the chat, thanks for everyone for participating in the chat. A couple things about it. One, it was great to see like Suzanne and Sarah and Rivka have fans in the chat, so that's lovely. But what I was really struck by in the first session's chat is just the diversity of folks that are here with us today for this NSLA bootcamp. So we have libraries and SEAs and LEAs and camps and Boys and Girls Clubs and YMCAs and all kinds of great organizations. And I saw a number of folks from housing authorities as well. So Joanna, you are the Director of Resident Support Services for the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara. So can you talk to us a little bit about the way that public housing and housing authorities partner with school districts and explain what you all do for kids?
Thank you, Brian. Actually, in my role today, I'll be speaking to you as the Director of Education for People Self-Help Housing. I'm in the middle of transitioning to the Director of Resident Services, Resident Support Services for the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara County. In my role there, we partner quite a bit with local school districts. We work with 8 different school districts throughout the Central Coast of California. People Self-Help Housing spans across Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo County. We have 11 on-site learning centers where we provide after-school programming year-round, as well as summer programming. So we operate 220 days out of the year. Like I said, they're on-site at the housing development there. So we work with low-income students, and they're able to just walk over from their apartments over to the learning centers. The biggest thing about partnering with the school district is finding out what their needs are. We're able to provide a service, and everyone's looking at this from a perspective of what's in it for me, right? And school districts are overworked, staff are underpaid and overworked. And so if we can come in from the perspective of we can lighten your load and make your job easier, they're a lot more likely to listen to us than if we come at it from a different angle. And so that's the first thing, putting yourself in their shoes and finding out what they need. For example, some of the school districts that I work with have limited space. And so yes, they offer the programming on site at the school site, but they have greater needs and need to expand some more. And so our learning centers are places where they can expand their services out. And it's a win-win. We're serving they're paying us for serving our own residents. In the public schools' eyes, we have a captive audience. The residents are there living on site, and they trust us. They've been working with us since they were, a lot of times since kindergarten, and we service them all the way until they finish their last college degree. And so they have someone they can count on when they come to the programs. And so it's an easy transition when it comes to bringing the partnerships on board with the on-site at our programs. And then the other thing that we do is we showcase what we can do for the school districts with the data. We are very outcome focused and data driven. And so I come in and show them, this is how many grade levels in reading that your students, our students as well, will be able to advance in just a short span of the summer program, because as you know, during the summer, there's no homework to take care of. So we're able to focus on advancing literacy skills or bringing in other enrichment activities that we can't do during the school year. So the summer is a very fun, but yet targeted and purposeful program that we run.
Fantastic. I have to tell a quick data story real quick because it cracked me up earlier this week. So I was working with a group that was surveying young people about a number of things. One of the questions was about which app that they're on most of the time. They sort of poorly phrased the question. It said, which app means the most to you? And so they were scrolling through the answers of like TikTok and Facebook. And one of the answers was mozzarella sticks, which is a great app, but probably not the data they were trying to collect about it. But a good answer nonetheless. So, all right, we're going to go back to Seattle. So Tasha, I was listening to those answers, and I had a few things that sort of were common across. I think alignment to goals, I think leveraging each other's strengths and funding, and then considering sort of why partnership for what ends. In Seattle, when you think about some of those pieces, or if you think about the staffing issues we're having, how do you sort of pull together that alignment, leveraging each other's strengths with sort of the challenges of staffing that we're having, and making sure these partnerships have great high quality opportunities for young people and that everyone can access them?
We missed the last part of what you said. Our internet in our district office is not the best. So just repeat the last part really quick.
It was just trying to get Seattle back in, just about how we're thinking about staffing and making sure it's high quality in addition to this sort of alignment and leveraging of each other's strengths.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Brian. Well, I want to start by saying that, yes, Seattle is on that similar path that Omaha is on. So again, really appreciating the work that Suzanne has done. We too are using project management approaches, which brings us to how recruiting and staffing has changed. So last spring, when I came on board to this work, we can just say that recruiting and staffing, much like Rivka talked about, things being a little ad hoc, summer, like in many districts, is very siloed. And so it was it existed outside of the way normal recruiting and staffing would operate in any school district. And so the work that we've done a little bit last year and in larger steps this year is to help bring those processes. I want to begin by saying that our human resources department pulled all their teams together, from their hiring analysts to their class and comp, and it pulled everybody together and has been working since September to revamp all human resource processes that are associated with hiring employees to work extra time in the summer. And it's been amazing. And so one of their goals has been to situate our summer hiring, our recruiting and staffing in a regular, operationalized, predictable processes that we currently use, much like what Suzanne was saying. And then simultaneously, as we've done that now this year, it helps us to do a couple of things. It helps us to, one, align better to our strategic plan, which one of our goals is about making predictable systems for our students, as well as our staff and families. And so by doing that, teachers can more readily predict how they are being asked to participate, or coming into it and then applying and then being offered that position in the summer. But we also employ a lot of support staff. So we're doing this widely with all staffing in the summer. And then the other goal that we're really aligning this to is our goal. We have 5 priority areas, and one of them is creating a culturally responsive workforce. So by operationalizing and making this process of how someone goes about applying for a summer position and then is offered that position and staffed, is really allowing us to really seek out staff who are representative of our students, and being able to now provide better training and professional development to support that culturally responsive workforce. So those are sort of the big pieces around our staffing and recruiting that we're working on right now.
That's great. I love that. Lots of us are concerned about equities and inequities, but really we have to infuse that work into everything else we're doing. It's not like a separate time where we work on equity or think about those things, right? It's all in the design and staffing and structure of the partnerships. So Sarah, we've talked a lot about the success that you all have had in Milwaukee, but I imagine it did not come without any challenges or barriers. So would you be willing to share, given that you're in 50 sites and have the great camp partnership that you all have built, what are maybe 1 or 2 barriers that you all had to work through, as some advice for our colleagues that are on the line?
Sure, absolutely. Working with Milwaukee Public Schools, there's just a lot of contract rules about how much money can be given, how, what you need to do an RFP for, what you need to have board approval on, and everything. And so being the partner, I don't necessarily know all of those rules. So learning it through there. Also, Milwaukee Public Schools is a very large school district. So it's not one person that can give all the answers. Where in a lot of community-based organizations, I'm not the only decision maker in my organization, but pretty much for camp, I make most of the decisions in my area. So that is different working with MPS, and some of our MPS staff members, sometimes they just need someone to talk about those struggles with too, because they are not in charge of some of the decisions. So just that communication and talking about what your needs are and what that end goal is. And then we also looked at the barriers to getting children to camp. We have a lot of families that just aren't ready to send their children away. And some of the school district employees as well, the thought of sending these children someplace where they're not in control and they're not the people that are, giving up medications, and, it just, all of those things are scary. And so talking through those policies, and, I spent a lot of time talking about we're accredited by the American Camp Association. And so what does accreditation mean, and what kind of standards are we, are we doing around things such as healthcare, and swimming pools were an issue that we came up with. They were worried about water safety. And so those things that are that we work every day on, just like, so one of the other school districts was talking about, you get your school speak, your partner agencies have the same speak. So it's just different to their agency. And so being able to really talk, it just took time to learn each other's needs. Patience and flexibility is really important for us. Summer camps, lots of times are filling up. Registration opens in November and you're filled by February, March. That doesn't work for our population of Milwaukee school children because the parents just don't register that early, whether for so many different reasons. And so we have to make sure to hold, we only have a certain number of camper spots that we open up until after spring break, so that we save those for the population, the children that we want, so that we've designed the program for. So the email went out from MPS today saying this free opportunity and who is eligible for that. It's all middle schoolers, 6th to 8th grade, and I can hear the phone ringing out in the office already. So that's really excellent. Recruitment has been, was an easier barrier to get past, but we had to sit there and talk through how we would have access to school children, what kind of information would go to the schools, what information we would keep confidential, and making sure our processes were all set. Also making sure that camp, when we were talking about all camps, all camps, you have to make sure that the partner is ready to receive all of the children that could be coming to them. And then we've talked a lot about inclusivity. That's really important. They have to make sure that your camp is ready for them to be welcomed into your space, and everybody being a part of the community. We didn't want any kind of an us or them feel. So one thing that I really like that Milwaukee Public Schools did to help one of these barriers is that they are providing through the grant a camp kit. So what kids can request this camp kit if they need bedding. It's things that you would need at camp that you maybe don't have at the house. Like you don't necessarily have bedding that you can just take and leave because maybe you share a bed with with a sibling. So things like swimming suits, bug spray, sunscreen, flashlights, those kinds of things are all funded and thought of through this grant. Transportation is definitely an issue for us. A lot of our parents are not going to drive their kids out here. We're 35 minutes away. Transportation is definitely an issue. Transportation happens, they pick up in 5 places right around the city. That was an easier one would think, until the busing crisis. So that was another barrier that lots of people find. And then the standard RFP process was a really interesting process to go through with MPS. And I think lots of school districts will be doing this in the future. It was challenging because the procurement software that they use is more written for buying 25 doors or 25 desks, not for providing programming to 1,000 children. So it was very interesting to work through that. So we had like a second round of clarifying questions because we just couldn't manipulate all of that information in the actual tool that we were using. So I'm sure the process will be a lot different. Last year, we learned a lot of lessons about that.
So at ASA, we are the School Superintendents Association. We have a big conference every year. Aaron came to ours this year in San Antonio. And I always encourage people to go to our exhibit hall because I don't think people always think of what school districts do. So if you go in our exhibit hall, you might see folks like Flying Classroom and Blackboard and learning management systems, but you'll also see electric school buses and all kinds of really physical things, like you're talking about the buying of doors and gym equipment, bleachers. There's people selling all kinds of things because districts do lots of different things. Yes, the education of children is our main business, but districts are sort of complicated, and they are also HR and purchasing and many other things. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Suzanne, do you have some ground rules or checklists when you think about new partners in Omaha? Is there sort of at least a North Star or some tips you can give to folks that are on the line when you're evaluating what would make a great partner to Omaha Public Schools?
Yeah, so I think just from a policy systems perspective, I mean, this is a big district. We have all kinds of rules about partners and engaging them and all of those things that are the bureaucracy of who we are. But I think we've really tried to think carefully, not just about how we establish partnerships, but how we strategically maintain them over time. And so everything from our community partnerships to the curriculum to the vendors that we're selecting, we really, in my office, the Office of School Improvement, we're really trying to take that strategic lens and thinking about sort of the ecosystem for improvement that we're trying to cultivate and nurture here. How will our engagement with this partner get us where we're going? And so to that end, and you know, we're a big school district. We have 53,000 kids, and we're spending a lot of money on a lot of these things. And so I've sort of really worked to kind of raise the expectation around how partners and how we are engaging with partners. And so, for example, we are working with an organization around an enrichment, software, drones or robots or whatever it might be, some sort of STEM enrichment. We're going to insist that the professional learning be co-designed, co-branded, use our language, connected to our goals, building on our culture, those kinds of things, that the alignment between that and the portrait of the graduate that we are implementing is evident. A lot of times we can see the promise of a partner or a product or a vendor, whatever it might be that we're bringing in to meet our goals. And then we leave it to schools and teachers to make that coherence, rather than ensuring that at the design stage, we are integrating all of those pieces, even evaluation, right? Like from the beginning, building in, how are we going to evaluate from initiation to impact in a way that's meaningful to all of the folks who are co-designing. And so I think we've almost gone beyond, like, you know, vetting and rules and those kinds of things to really think carefully about rules of engagement for true collaboration around the work with all of our partners, from community to curriculum and everything in between.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to try to keep us on time. So Joanna, I'm going to start with you, but we're going to get everybody one last opportunity for a comment that's really somewhat based in advice. We've got over 300 folks on here that are thinking about this summer, that are thinking about building these partnerships that will last, that can grow, that can scale, that can expand. So Joanna, when you think about approaching a district or approaching another out-of-school time partner, even as a housing authority, what do you think about in terms of convincing folks why this is such a necessary idea?
The first thing I think of is, like I mentioned before, is what's their vantage point? What are their interests in? What can I provide? What can my program provide that they're looking for? And the other thing is, how can we work together so we're not reinventing the wheel? There's things that my program does amazingly, but there's things that Boys and Girls Club does amazingly. And if we work together, we can maximize resources and provide an even better program for the students that we serve, for the children that we serve. And so if we're both, all partners are essentially looking at this from what can we do for these children? So if we put them at the center of our conversations, then this is a much easier conversation to be had. And secondly, if we look at it from the perspective of how can I make their life easier and in turn meet my outcomes that I'm trying to accomplish, then we're going to be working together and not the other way around.
Thank you, Joanna. I'll just second that. I think, you know, again, going back to equity work or thinking about families we want to reach, they're the same families and they're the same children. And those of us on this side of the call have to do a better job of making their experience more efficient and effective with their time, which is very limited, especially since we're all trying to serve those kids rather than making them run to 4 or 5 different places and filling out the same form and emergency contact and all those things, which are important. Okay. Let's go to Seattle again. Do you have a piece of advice or a tip that someone on the call could use right now as they're thinking about summer programming for this year? Something you want to leave the audience with?
One of the things that we want to leave people with is this idea that in a school district, and to Suzanne and Joanna's points exactly, we internally need to embrace summer so that it isn't a siloed thing that's happening outside of the regular school year operations. So one thing we've done, and I highly recommend it, develop those relationships internally in that district in order to situate summer learning in the planning of the regular school year. And we've done that this year. So we disbanded our summer learning team that had 50 people on it, and we are now part of the regular school year operation team that meets every single week. And that lays the groundwork to making sure that people in various departments, from culinary services to transportation to safety and security, when partners in our school-based programs, as well as the partners we bring in for the district-sponsored programs, are interacting, we actually have a more unified central office who understands and is able to embrace and welcome our partners in, instead of being and appearing as a system that doesn't know what the right hand and left hand are doing. So strongly recommend that move. And Rivka, if you want to add anything to how that can actually strengthen our relationships and make our partnerships more sustainable.
Yeah, I would just say, I think kind of building off of that, my tip, and I mean, there is no like lightning work. Partnership work is hard. I guess I just want to be honest about that. And it takes consistent work. So, you know, yeah, we're doing our best and we're going to make some mistakes and hopefully get better. But I think one of the things that I'm thinking about, building off of what Tasha said, is at least in Seattle, there are many different levels of partnerships. So there may be folks that you're directly bringing in, you know, contracting with, maybe paying money to be part of your summer program. But they may not be the only folks you should think about when you think about partnerships. So in Seattle, we have those partners that we'll be contracting with, but then there's other folks like a partner who's here today, ESUS, representing one of our licensed childcare partners, that are formal partners of the district, but aren't necessarily going to be part of our centrally driven elementary summer learning program. So one thing that I'm trying to think about is how do we work with those different like sort of levels of partners with intention and make sure that we're actually having good communication, good collaboration practices, regardless of whether it's a paid contract or not.
Great. Sarah, and then Suzanne, you're gonna have 30 seconds each. So Sarah, your best tip, best one.
There is no one right way. So start somewhere and start talking with your community. I work with 20 plus school districts. MPS is one example that I gave today of how we work. So again, no one way, just start one foot in front of the other and keep your outcomes in mind, and don't forget to add in the fun. Our kids deserve it.
The fun is important. Suzanne, you get the last word.
Yeah, so I would say, just from my perspective, that summer, rather than being the last thing we think of, can actually be a driving force for systems change in our districts and in all of the work that we do. And so I think even the HR conversation we had earlier this year, we're hiring teachers right now. Public school human resources is a very difficult place to be right now. Just saying, right? Like, there are no teachers. So we actually are finding that our new teachers want to work summer, and that is a like, oh, this is your base salary, and we've increased the pay for summer and this, right? And so all of these strategic goals that we have around retention and preventing attrition and culture and all of those things, summer can be a driver of improvement for all of those things. And so really thinking about it in terms of the fabric of our work and how it can press on some of those hard to solve problems that we're all facing right now is a really important thing to take away.
Love that. It's like, is Sunday the last day of the week or the first day of the next week? Is summer the end of the school year, or is it the launch pad for the next school year? So I want to thank Sarah, Rivka, Tasha, Joanna, and Suzanne, and I have to give it back to Aaron.
Well, thank you. What an amazing panel. And thank you, Brian. And thank you to everyone who just shared so many great tips and examples of how schools and communities can partner together. I just want to thank everyone. We're wrapping up. We've had 2 amazing sessions. I want to thank the Wallace Foundation for sponsoring our wonderful research and policy session that Sharonda from the U.S. Department of Education moderated, and with so many great speakers that we heard from. And then just now talking about our community partnerships with our school districts. And we have so many great resources: public housing authorities, boys and girls clubs, summer camps, and nobody has to feel alone. And I love this idea that summer is a driving force for systems change. Tomorrow, just want to bring people's attention to what we're doing. We're meeting back at 1 o'clock, 2 other hot topics. We are going to be talking about curriculum and program partners that everyone can utilize, sponsored by Varsity Tutors. And then we're going to be talking about what we've talked a little bit about today, staff recruitment, relationships, retention, and making sure we get all the right adults into our programs that are going to have a huge impact on young people. So that's sponsored by ProSolve. And again, thank you to Flying Classroom and all the partner groups that were here that made this possible. Thank you for taking time. We want to leave you with a message from our Secretary of Education, and then look forward to seeing all of you back together at 1 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time, same link, and we're going to have a great day tomorrow as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to join you here today. Summer learning programs have always been important for our students, but over the last couple of years, they've become essential. Quality, evidence-based summer learning and enrichment programs are key to recovering from the pandemic. These programs help accelerate students' academic learning. Equally as important, they support students' mental and physical health and their overall well-being through rich offerings and a focus on nurturing relationships. That's what this is all about, relationships. Summer programs also provide engaging and fun places for students to explore their passions and grow. These programs are crucial, too, for working parents and caregivers, giving them peace of mind knowing that their children are safe and that they're learning. At the Department of Education, we believe all children, especially those who have been most impacted by the pandemic, they deserve access to high-quality summer learning and enrichment. The ARP funds provide critical resources to help make that happen. Every state has the potential to leverage summer learning programs at the local level, to strengthen school community partnerships and provide young people with the support they need, even when school is out. We must seize this moment to do all we can for our children. We must reimagine what summer learning programs can be for our communities. No resource can go untapped. Community organizations that run summer programs have the experience, they have the expertise and the devoted staff to help our students learn and grow. Building and expanding partnerships among states, districts, and community-based partners is a vital component of helping our students recover from the pandemic. It's going to require intentional collaboration. The work starts now to get every young person signed up for a high-quality program. Every child across the country should have access to quality summer learning programming. We need to make it easy for families and students to find great programs. So I'm grateful to the NSLA and its partners for providing discoversummer.org as a great resource for families to navigate their options. Thank you for working directly with families and communities to get kids enrolled. I look forward to celebrating National Summer Learning Week this upcoming July 11 through 15. And I'd like to invite leaders across the whole country to visit programs in their communities. Let's show support for those programs. Thank you for inviting me to take part in this kickoff, and I'm really looking forward to this summer.
Thank you to Secretary Cardona. Thank you to everyone here. We'll see you tomorrow. This will build on our momentum. We appreciate everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, Brian. Great job.